Lawyers for the woman accusing Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh of sexual assault say they want the FBI to get involved before she testifies before Congress. In a letter Tuesday to Senate Judiciary Committee Chairman Chuck Grassley, Ford's lawyer says her client has received death threats since coming forward. She adds, quote, as the Judiciary Committee has recognized and done before, an FBI investigation of the incident should be the first step in addressing her allegations. CBS News Chief Congressional Correspondent Nancy Cortez joins us now on the phone from Washington. Nancy, what more can you tell us about this letter? In the letter, it seems that Dr. Blasey Ford is the victim of harassment. I mean, it says that she and her family were forced to leave their home.
Right. Her lawyer actually lays out what's been happening to her over the past 36 hours since she went public with her allegation in an interview with the Washington Post. Her lawyer says that she has been harassed online, that her email has been hacked, that she's gotten death threats, and that she and her family have actually had to move out of their home in California because they fear for her safety. And the lawyer goes on to say, in the middle of all of this, she had to contend with the Senate, setting a hearing date 6 days from today in which she will be grilled about a particularly painful episode in her life by 21 senators, some of whom have clearly already made up their minds that she is either mistaken or she's lying. The lawyer goes on to say that she believes that, as the judiciary has done before, it should have the FBI conduct an independent investigation looking into her allegations and Kavanaugh's recollection as well before her client is called before the Senate Judiciary Committee to testify. And that is really the impasse that we have been witnessing between Democrats and Republicans for the past couple of days, because Republicans obviously don't want to delay. They want to try to confirm Kavanaugh as quickly as possible, and that's why they went ahead and set this hearing date for Monday, next Monday, to 6 days from today, before even asking Blasey Ford whether she was going to be ready to do it on that date. And what Republicans are saying is we've reached out to her several times to try to make sure that this date was going to be okay, but heard nothing back.
Well, and now they have. And so do you think that, getting this information out there and hearing how she's been the victim of this harassment and her family and that she had to leave her house, I mean, all of this it's alarming and it's upsetting. So do you think that if the Republicans press forward with this Monday date, that she clearly will not be available, she clearly does not feel ready for that, it will just make them look bad, Nancy?
Well, it puts them in a difficult position for sure, Tanya, because on one hand, if she says she is willing to talk, but she just wants an investigation first, then Republicans can't simply say, well, we invited her to come and testify. She chose not to, so we're moving ahead with a confirmation vote. There is a possibility that some Republicans, like Stephen Collins of Maine, like Lisa Murkowski of Alaska, like Jeff Flake of Arizona, might say, well, I really can't decide how I'm going to vote until I hear from her, until I hear from Judge Kavanaugh. What's the rush? Why don't we just do an investigation for a couple of weeks and then do the hearing? On the other hand, there is a concern among some Republicans, that who knows what could happen during that time. Perhaps there might be another allegation. And they know that they've got a midterm election coming up in just a month and a half, and control of the Senate is at stake. So they really want to try and push this nomination through before November. And so you've got all these competing instincts. What they'll do now that this letter has landed in their lap is really difficult to say.
And are you getting the sense that this letter is a surprise?
No, because it's been very clear from what we've been hearing from Democrats all day that their position was that there should be an FBI investigation, not because they think that Kavanaugh should be pursued criminally for this, but because it's the FBI that, that does background checks on major nominees and did several background checks on Kavanaugh, and they say that now there's new information and that should be investigated by the FBI as well, because it is an independent arbiter. They say this is something that is just simply too fraught, too high stakes for staffers on the Senate Judiciary Committee to credibly investigate. So that's the argument that Democrats have been making. And we were getting signs that this is how Blasey Ford's lawyer felt as well. Because as you can imagine, here's a woman who, she was a private citizen until 48 hours ago. She has never testified on Capitol Hill. She is someone who's sort of being thrust into this world, in her view, and she wants an independent arbiter to basically look at the claims and say, yes, we found that she's got credibility, that some of the things she's saying check out, before she has to go before these senators, some of whom have a vested interest in poking holes in her story.
Right. Yes. I mean, the letter closes by asking to discuss reasonable steps as to how Dr. Ford can cooperate while also taking care of her own health and security, which is clearly, of course, a priority as well right now. Nancy Cortez, how do you think that tomorrow morning, how do you think that Congress will react to this?
Well, I think you'll have a lot of Democrats saying, well, first of all, let me back up and say that tomorrow is a Jewish holiday, and so Congress is not actually in session. And so you won't see all of the activity in the halls of the Senate that you've seen the last couple of days. So, a lot of what we'll be hearing will be coming via public statements and from members of Congress who go on to the cable shows and speak to us, et cetera. But the Senate is actually supposed to be gone for the rest of the week, which does complicate things. Obviously, Republicans will be huddling to try to figure out what to do, because this has ramifications beyond just this confirmation process. The way that Republicans and Democrats handle this in the midst of the Me Too movement,
yes,
will have repercussions the same way that the Anita Hill hearings were handled 20 years ago.
Absolutely.
Had repercussions for both parties. Patty Murray, a Senate Democrat, said today that part of the reason that she won her race for the Senate in Washington State in 1992 was because it was the year of the woman, and she and many other women were swept into office because of a general disgust among women about the way that the Anita Hill hearings were handled and the dismissive way that she was treated by male senators. And a number of those senators are still on the Senate Judiciary Committee today. So this is very fraught for both parties, and you're going to have a lot of Democrats saying, see, this is exactly what we were saying. Here's a woman who claims that she endured a traumatic event. She's a private citizen. You can't just thrust her in the national spotlight and grill her about whether she's telling the truth or not. There should be some kind of formal process first.
Right.
Republicans say they've been trying to do that, but they believe that it can be handled by judiciary staffers and that the FBI does not need to reopen its investigation, a process that they know could take weeks or maybe even months.
You're right, Nancy. Both parties are going to have to be very careful moving forward with this information. Nancy Cortez in Washington, thank you.
You're welcome.